Dude, I don't even know who's going to be my best girl when all is said and done with my adventure in Rewrite, dude. Because that ending, we saw nothing of Akane the entire episode. And then that ending, when I heard Kitamura Eri be like, yo, Kuso Gypsy, I was like, yo, I can already tell I'm going to love her. But there's so many incredible characters. And with this first episode of Rewrite, while it wasn't perfect by any means, and I'm sure the visual novel players, have things to say about the adaptation, everything like that, I loved it even more than I thought I would. And yes, I have gripes, but ultimately, it's fucking amazing, dude. I cannot wait to dive into the visual novel. And that's the first thing I want to say right now, is that I'm going to be diving into the visual novel. As some of you might know already, some of you don't know. I want to say this now because I know not everybody watches the entirety of these videos, but I am planning to do a Let's Play of Rewrite. I've been planning this for a couple months now, and I was actually going to do it before the anime started, but once I heard that it was doing this anime original 6th route, I was like, cool, we can do it concurrently with the anime. So just to give you an update on that, that's going to be starting this Thursday. I figured out the schedule and everything like that. We're going to have 3 episodes a week, Thursdays, Saturdays, around the time the episode comes out. And on, I believe, what else did I say? On Mondays as well. So that's what we're going to be having with Rewrite visual novel. And I just can't wait to dive into it, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to experience it, especially with how much this first episode gripped me. But I'm going to be kind of playing off of people who have played the visual novel as well, because I want to know, as far as the setup of this episode, it really felt like they started at the beginning and kind of branched from the main common route that I know the game has. At first, I was thinking they were going to do something from Harvest Festa. They didn't do anything like that. And now I realize that it is, in fact, its own original route, most likely focusing more on Kagari, which Kagari is amazing. I want to hear her speak, dude, because it's kind of Hanazawa as the VA. Only thing she said this episode was Kotori, and dude, let's get into it, man. So Rewrite episode 1, my first impressions, reaction, review, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I know this is kind of unconventional because I've never streamed a review before. It is kind of weird, but there's a couple reasons that I'm doing this, and I'll talk about it as we get through the actual review portion of this. So first of all, the thing that struck me instantly with Rewrite was twofold, actually threefold. Just something formally that I truly love about this adaptation. I think 8-Bit is doing a great job, barring a little bit of problems and slips in the animation quality, especially during that final scene where Kagari was going in against that crazy ass creature with when Tennouji was in this other dimension with Pani and Gil, these tree familiar spirits or whatever the fuck is going on. Honestly, I don't think you're supposed to get what's going on right now. I personally don't know the breadth of it, but I'm damn sure curious to find out about these supernatural elements. Tennouji Kotarou being like, yo, I have to use the accelerator. At time and time again, he keeps saying that clearly he's able to enhance his physical abilities in some way, shape, or form from what we saw. I don't know if the beginning of the episode was, in fact, some sort of dream or illusion that he was experiencing. I don't know if that, I'm guessing it actually happened, especially with Kagari continuing to haunt him and she's showing up in his bed, draining his blood and then pulling some twisted ring creepy shit out. I feel for you, man. But ultimately, there's a lot. The series is definitely going to have a lot of insanity for it, as much as it has its slice of life, dramatic elements and everything like that. And the comedic elements is definitely going to have this supernatural air to it. And delve into a lot of insane shit because that ending episode was crazy. I really can't wait to get to that. But ultimately, I think that aside from some slips in animation quality, the backgrounds, the art, the character designs look sexy as fuck to me. Look absolutely gorgeous. I think 8-Bit is doing a great job, and I've been expecting a good project from them coming off of Grisaya. I've been waiting for it. I trust this studio. I know some people dislike 8-Bit. I actually really like 8-Bit, and I think they're doing a good job right now. The music, dude, son. Like, I know Jun Maeda doesn't have a hand in this particular keywork as far as the scenario goes, but I do know that he's on, they're using a lot of the tracks from the game. I don't know if they're going to be adding some originals, but I recognize some of these just from my brief foray into it. I know they're using, you know, the main theme of the game. They dropped at the end of this episode by Runa. And I'm just like, dude, the music is superb. It's so captivating. It suits the air of the series, you know, generally. Yeah, I'm gonna call him Kotarou. Don't worry about that. But anyway, suits the air of the series perfectly. And I really like that. And then on top of that, the backgrounds, that just the atmosphere and everything like that. So formally, overall, I really like it. But the main thing that stuck out to me was the dialogue and the writing, dude. Just such amazing dialogue, from the comedic dialogue, how dynamic and eccentric these characters are. I feel like I'm going to fall in love with every single one, and it's going to be so hard to pick my best girl ultimately as well. But there were just so many lines throughout this episode. Normally there's a handful in any series that I watch, and granted, it was, you know, a double episode, so to speak. It was 50 minutes long, but there was just so much from character introductions, getting, you know, associated with everybody and just getting a vibe for each dynamic, that I was utterly captivated the whole way through. So first of all, let me rank these girls right now based on what we've seen, and I can't really do it 100% because we didn't see much of Lucia, except for that one moment where she had the outburst, and clearly she's this kind of strict, heavily tsundere class president vibe going for her, especially in regards to Kotarou. But ultimately, I can tell I'm gonna like her already. And the same thing with Chaya. We barely saw her throughout this episode, but you know, even still, I can get the vibe, and I feel as though I'm definitely gonna like that character as I get to know them and as things progress. I don't know how they're really gonna do things with that, but from this episode alone, I know I'm gonna love Kagari. Kagari's potentially design alone, and the weight that you can tell that she has in this story, I'm probably going to fall madly in love with her. But right now, my best girl has to, just based off of this episode alone, has to be Kotori. Kotori, first of all, Saito Chiwa, man. Saito Chiwa, which it's crazy to me, and it really showcases how incredible she is as a voice actress from you know, things. It's Gahara-san. Sounds nothing like Gahara-san, you know, from Yona to Gahara-san, just various roles that she's played. This is a complete departure for her, and I really like Kotori's banter and her dialogue, dude. Like, first of all, her trolling is masterful. It's definitely on Kotaro's level, and I'm going to talk about Kotaro as an MC in a second, but just the scenes between, you know, Kotaro and what's the dude's name? Yoshino? I believe it's Yoshino. You know, the self-proclaimed outlaw, the mad dog, bad boy of the classroom. It's fucking hilarious to me when she comes up to me. She's like, "Oh, are you guys going to hook up, lube up?" I'm like, "Yo, what are you saying right now?" That smug ass grin she had in the background. Just one-liners when you know, Kotaro is talking to what is the chick's name, dude? What is the chick's name? She's the only one that I'm not remembering her name. The fucking Strawberry Pantsu girl. Oh, that no. Her name is Chihaya. All right, I got those confused. Chihaya is Strawberry Pantsu girl, and Shizuru is the girl from disciplinary committee that we haven't seen much of. So, like I said, I can tell I'm gonna like Shizuru, but we barely seen any of her. But anyway, when she's talking to Chaya and she's just trolling the shit out of Kotaro in that scene, making that noise as she walks away. When that dude comes into the classroom and has that little parlay with Kotaro, and she's just like, "Yo," she looks at them and she's like, love, and I'm like, "Yo," she's just absolutely amazing, dude. Even the beginning of the episode, the shit with the coins and the scenery during that, man, looked amazing. She has an incredibly beautiful looking mom in Rikako. I really like Kotori right now. I guarantee you that's going to change, and she most likely may not end up being my ultimate best girl, but yeah, I really like her right now. And then I definitely think that I'm gonna put Akane over Chihaya right now, even though we got more of her this episode. And don't get me wrong, Chihaya is absolutely adorable. The whole dynamic between her and Kotaro throughout this episode, when she first comes into the class and everybody's just like cheering for her, and the man keeps trolling her time and time again about the pantsu. I'm just like, yo, this is fucking hilarious. So the comedy was on point throughout this episode. Ultimately, Kotaro is just an incredible protagonist for me. Like, I really like him. Tennouji Kotaro has the potential. I see the potential in him to be one of my favorite visual novel protagonists of all time, amongst the greats like, you know, Okarin, my boy HOUOUIN, KYOUMA, and the like, you know. So I really like him thus far, especially the way he was trolling Yoshino throughout this episode. Everything the man said, he's like, even if it's God himself, and he just bursts out laughing and spits all over the dude. I'm just like, yo, that element of his persona is hilarious. He's clearly unable to stop himself from getting involved in people's problems in people's life, and he genuinely cares about various individuals. But there's definitely, he has his secrets as well as far as these abilities are concerned. You know, that whole thing with the chick from the newspaper club, and she has these kinds of notes on him, and she's like, oh, she is definitely dangerous. There's definitely some weight there as far as his past goes, and I think a lot of where we've been dropped into, whereas yes, we've definitely got a lot of the character dynamics established, we've definitely got, you know, to get introductions for a lot of the main characters, we're still dropped into a point in the series, and I feel as though this is how it's supposed to be. I feel like the visual novel is similar in that sense, to where you're not supposed to grasp everything right away. Of course, it's going to be confusing. Things will flesh itself out over time. So the only thing I want to ask for people who have played the visual novel is how the pacing of this is, because it's not realistically an adaptation so much as they're going into their own shit. I feel as though maybe the ending of this episode is an indication of that more so than anything. But at the same time, it seems like a lot of the setup and the intro dynamic is from the beginnings of the visual novel as well, and for the common route. So I'm really curious to see how that goes, and how things develop. But dude, Yoshi knows it, boss. I guarantee you, as I get into it, as I get into the visual novel, as I continue with this, he's just gonna be my boy, dude. I just love pretty much every single character that we've been introduced to in this episode to some extent. Like even Bonnie and Gil. I really want to see them again and find out what that's about, because Gil is fucking hilarious, dude. Like when he wakes up that beast, I'm just like, I'm done. So ultimately, as you can tell from my rating, I like this series a lot. Yes, it was one of my most anticipated. Definitely was one of my most anticipated. And I was slightly apprehensive about how it was going to be handled, knowing that they were going down this anime original route. From now, I don't have the knowledge to really say if it's being done well or not. But I'm going to count on my boy Zara to really tell me that for the time being without spoiling me. I don't really trust anybody else that's a visual novel player to tell me that without spoiling me. But I love this series right now, dude. I really enjoyed that first episode. I almost want to watch it again, but ultimately the best thing that it did for me is really lit this flame in me to go full force with this Let's Play, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So with all that said, I'm going to see if I missed anything in my notes here. If I missed anything that I really wanted to touch on. I feel like I talked about every single girl. The visuals, as I said, just beautiful in terms of the color palettes, the scenery, and I think a lot of that is evocative of what you see in the visual novel as well. So to a certain extent, bringing this visual novel to life as an anime, even though it's not a straightforward adaptation of any other routes, I know there's this True Terror route and everything like that. This is just brief knowledge that I have. Not really anything too in depth. I don't know if they're pulling stuff from that, if it's stuff from Harvest Festa. You know, I really don't know, or if it's just completely, utterly original. And how much they're bringing in from the common route to kind of set up these characters with this episode. But I think the pacing of it from an anime-only perspective right now worked really well. They were able, with this double episode, to introduce the characters, establish these dynamics, kind of establish the mystery of the world, while at the same time juxtaposing it with this kind of comedic slice of life-esque air, which you know it's not going to be anything like that when we truly dive into things. It's going to be dramatic, crazy, and potentially dark as fuck to a certain extent. So I'm really excited, dude. But my boy Kotarou, I guarantee you, he may even surpass Shiro in terms of my rankings of visual novel protagonists, man. He may very well, because I love everything about him. Voice actor wise, I thought about it for a second. I was like, is that really Ichigo? Is that really Ichigo? I look at him like, yo, it's really fucking Ichigo. Very, very good performance by him, because it sounds like it, but only to an extent, and it's very much original. So ultimately, I have to say, in terms of the things I've watched thus far this season, you know, new projects, not talking about sequel series like Soma Here Today and everything like that, but just as far as new projects, and I haven't gotten to everything yet that's come out today, and there's still a lot more to go. this may very well, I don't know if I like Relife episode 1 more. I think I'd put this as my favorite thing that I've seen thus far this season. To be completely honest with you guys, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, barring, you know, the problems formally in terms of animation. It's not, you know, it's not incredibly fluid and well animated as it could be. I feel like 8-Bit does a good job with that to an extent, because when I think back to Grisaya, it had its problems as well, but it was still fucking beast in terms of animation overall. And that's what I see happening here. You know, very minimal use of CGI at some points as well, which I think is negligible. And I think, especially in light of jarring shit CGI that we've been getting these days, I think it works quite well, and I think it looks good. So, it's a beast, but just so much great dialogue. Like I said, like the banter between him and, you know, that newspaper chick where she's like, you know, ensnaring a disciplinary committee member and covering up his you know, his crimes. I'm just like, yo, Kotarou, man, you're getting yourself into these situations time and time again, and all the while you have this air about you where I just love you. There's this certain charisma to the character, the way he trolls, the way he acts with, you know, the various characters. It's kind of, you see slight differences with each person that he's interacting with, but ultimately it's all part of the same persona. And I really like that, dude. But I need Kagari to talk more for her to really be solidified come the end of it. Right now, like I said, Kotori is just the shit. Kotori is just the shit. I can't, just her dialogue phonetically is amazing to me, dude. Just their faces, her demeanor, her attitude. There's something about it right now where I'm just like, yeah, she's the shit right now. Hopefully, you know, as we get more into these other characters, because the only other character that I think I'm gonna like as much right now based on this episode is Akane, because that ending, Eri Kitamura, she's a goddess, dude. She's a goddess. As soon as I heard her voice, I was done. And I'm very curious about this character just because of the buildup around her with this episode. You know, the underground dawn, this witch of the school. She's the only member of this occult club, which, from what I know about the story, everyone is generally going to join this club as things go, you know, progress. I still really don't know what to expect with this anime original route, but because it's anime original, I think it makes the Let's Play that much more fruitful for me, because I can delve in with these characters, you know, get even more out of them, and you know, see the various routes, and still have something fresh to look forward to with this anime. So it's gonna be a lot of fun, man. And I also like the ads in that little line that she threw at Kotarou, where she's like, yo, would you change the world or would you change yourself? Which, you know, the man is just kind of, he's like, what sort of Zen Buddhist wisdom is this that you're throwing at me? But ultimately it's one and the same. Ultimately it's one and the same. If you philosophically want to look at it, it's one and the same. But aside from that, the Yoshi X10 ships, man. When the man said it, and he was just like, you're surprisingly more knowledgeable about this kind of Fujoshi thing than I thought. I'm just like, yo, this whole thing, you know, the man Yoshi is not going to be having this as it progresses. It's going to be interesting that ultimately you can tell that he's a good guy at heart, but he's trying to have this badass, you know, air and persona about him, which makes for a character that I generally really like. I really love characters like that. So it's going to be interesting. But with all that said, I think I'm done rambling about this first episode. Wasn't perfect by any means. I'm not going to say that it was, but in terms of my enjoyment of it, I really loved it. I cannot wait to see what happens, to find out more about this world, and I'm even more excited than ever to play the visual novels. So with all that said, let me look at the comments, because that was part and parcel the reason that I did this in stream form. I don't expect too many people to be here during this stream, but let's see. Let's hope it will be better than Charlotte. No, for damn sure it's gonna be better than Charlotte, dude. For damn sure it's gonna be better than Charlotte. I'm willing to place money on that. Apparently, it was rather rushed and the art was underwhelming. I mean, comparatively, you have to think about it this way. In the visual novel, certain illustrations are probably going to look so sexy and gorgeous compared to what we got here. I think art-wise, it was pretty fucking strong. I think the character designs, and especially the backgrounds and illustrations, were on point. So I'm fine with that. I think the only problem formally, because the music is fucking godly as well, I think the only problem formally for me is the animation quality. It took dips multiple times, but ultimately it's negligible. It's negligible. So yeah, exactly, dude. It wasn't perfect, but I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It was one of the most enjoyable first episodes so far from this season for me. And I definitely think it's going to, if handled right, and if this anime original, route is that good, it could be in my top 5 this season for sure. I think that's going to be exponentiated and expanded by the fact that I'm going to jump into these Let's Plays of the visual novel. So, don't know myself. I don't know the visual novel. I feel you. I mean, I'm really curious to hear what the entirety of the visual novel fan base is feeling about this adaptation right now, because that'll be a good marker of how good it really is and how they're feeling about what's taking place in terms of steps towards this anime original route. Especially, yeah, dude, memory. Kotarou, like I said, Tennouji Kotarou is an absolute boss. Like, I love him already. He may be amongst the greats, dude. He may even rival my boy Okane. Who knows? Who knows? Akane wasn't supposed to appear till quite a bit. They rushed to get to the intro of all the characters. It was great, though. I'm glad they dropped her at the ending of the episode at the very least, because if I didn't see her at all this episode, it would have kind of tainted my perspective. Like, at least just catching glimpses of everyone, even if they're not completely fleshed out, like, it's fine with me. Like, Lucia, we kind of got an idea of what her persona is, even though we really didn't get any dialogue from her. Same thing with Shizuru. So that's beast. Realistically, the only 2 female characters that we got a lot of, even though we saw Kagari a lot, is just very much an enigmatic and strange supernatural presence right now. Really, the only 2 female characters that we got any real depth to are Kotori and Chihaya, both of which I really like, especially with Chihaya and her superhuman strength. This is the way she just keeps getting pissed off about him teasing her about the pantsu and everything like that. She has a very earnest and straightforward persona as well. So I like her. Kotori is easily above her right now, and I can already tell that as far as Chihaya versus the other girls are concerned, Akane will probably beat her for me. Lucy has the potential to beat her for me, depending on how Shizuru is handled, because I'm never generally a fan of that archetype of character straight out the gate if they're generic. But based on how dynamic and eccentric each one of these characters are so far, I can tell there's going to be a lot of depth to Shizuru's character, and she may very well take it. Who fucking knows at this point, dude? Kagari as well. So, and like I said, design-wise, Kagari for the motherfucking win. I'm absolutely in love, and the fact that it's Kanaha. See, that's what I'm saying. And Kitamura and Kanaha just on VAs, and the same thing with Kotori and Saito Chiwa. Normally, I give a slight bit of bias to female characters and ranking them because of their VAs. It's not fair, 100%, but I definitely tend to do that. Yeah, Animus, the Let's Play, like I said, just to reiterate, it's going to be starting this Thursday with episode 1, and we'll have 3 episodes a week, unless I end up really getting that deep into it, which I could easily see happening, and I want to force more content out, and then we'll have more than 3 episodes a week, but it'll be on Thursdays, Saturdays, and Mondays. Damn, Kagari barely speaks. See, that's what I'm afraid of. That's what I'm afraid of, but it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, Riri will definitely be better than Charlotte. I'm sorry. I really can't see it being worse than Charlotte. I really can't. Hatsukoi Monster is gonna be your new Sakamoto. That's what Ku said, Seamaster. Ku said that might be where we're doing the drunken live reactions this season. I have yet to check it out. I'm actually gonna watch it if I have time after this. I know Days drops in like an hour, so I'm gonna try and check that out before Days and get a first impressions up. Rewrite's OST is godly, man. Just some of the tracks I heard this episode alone are absolutely beautiful. Kotori's best girl. Is she actually your best? I want to know who your best girl is, Zara. Having played the visual novel and gone through all those routes, who your actual best girl is. It's much better, but as an adaptation, though, who knows? Interesting. But last episode. Yeah. After I hear his song, like his theme, I'm in. I like Yoshino as it is, dude. Yoshino's a boss. Yeah. Kotori, Akane, Shizuru, Lucia, Kagari, Chihaya. Interesting. I would have thought. I mean, I'm not surprised Chihaya is last. That gives me a lot of hope for Shizuru's character. Then, if she's even above, because automatically from just this episode, if I were to rank the girls, it would go something similar to that, except Kagari would be above Shizuru. It would be Kotori, Akane, Kagari, Lucia, Shizuru, and Chihaya. And we've seen more Chihaya than Lucia and Shizuru, but I can just tell already that I'll most likely like them more in the end. Doesn't take a while. So this episode was rushed pacing wise. See, that could be another thing negative towards this anime right now in terms of how they're handling things. But in terms of direction, dialogue, the script, voice acting, talent, music, art, it's on point. It's on point. Probably reordering some of the common route stuff. That's what it seems like. It seems like they're bringing some of that shit in there for sure. It's more real, but Rewrite isn't really like your usual key series. Focus on that. But I'm more shonen-ish. I compare it. I feel like this is like if a key work went into the Nasu-verse. Like that's how I feel about Rewrite right now, and that's why I feel like I'm gonna enjoy it so much, because it has a lot of elements that are staples of key works for sure. It has a lot of those elements, and I feel like anybody who's familiar with key works can find similarities to each one of their prior works in Rewrite. But it feels like it took a key work, toss it into the Nasu verses like fucking Fate and Key had a baby together. That's what it seems like to me. Kotori's in your top 5 females. Dude, I'm glad because right now my best girl seems like she's a keeper, and that's what I like to hear, because I wasn't expecting Kotori to be my favorite going into it. I actually thought, just based on the promotional visuals and everything like that I would like Kagari the most, because like I said, I love her design. But Kotori stole it from me this episode, dude. Kotori versus Akane. Interesting, because like I said, Akane is my number 2. Sakamoto will be at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And yes, that don't remind me about that re-chapter. I was just getting it out of my mind. The 50 minutes of Rewrite really took it out of my mind, and now I'm thinking about it again. But it is what it is. So just to reiterate one more time, the playthrough will begin this Thursday with episode 1, and I'll keep you guys posted as far as that's concerned. I still haven't figured out how long I'm going to make the episodes, so that'll definitely factor into the schedule as well going forward. But look forward to that, and I will definitely be back next week with another Rewrite video for episode 2. I don't know how I want to handle it. I don't know what you guys are thinking, whether you want, like, this was weird. This is some unprecedented shit. I liked it because going to the chat afterwards and having a discussion was fun. And I got to get, I really did this, no lie, low key. I did this part and parcel because, one, I'm short on time today. There's a lot of things I actually got to get to. So not having to edit and upload this after the fact makes it that much easier for me. But at the same time, I wanted to see if there were anybody that was going to be in here. I knew my boy Zara would potentially come through at the very least. That could give me the visual novel perspective, because I was very curious about that, since I haven't actually embarked on my adventure with that. But it was interesting. I don't think I'm going to do this again. I still think this series will benefit from reviews, but what I'm going to do is I'm not going to limit it to that. So it's going to be reviews, uploaded reviews next week with episode 2. And if I feel as though an episode is going to be live reaction worthy coming up, then I will do a live reaction for that episode. But for the most part, we're going to stick with uploaded reviews for this. I don't think I like it. I'm going to keep experimenting, every now and again with these live stream reviews, because it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. But with all that, I'm going to get up out of here. Thanks, guys, for coming through. If you watched it live, I'm out. Peace.